Chapter 507, Cultivated Divine Body in Xuanwu. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Huang Sheni and Xuanlong began fighting on the heavenly ring. Both Huang Sheni and Xuanlong were very powerful. Their fight lasted for 130 moves in succession and the winner still could not be determined. Saint's fire. Xuanlong was full of rage. He clenched his fists and ignited indigo sparks from his body. His Confucian scholar costume burst into flames and produced a crackling sound, before turning into ashes. The meridians beneath his skin turned completely blue, as though they were chains of flame. They were weaving into a net inside Xuanlong. Huang Sheni squinted and said, "You've practiced Saint's fire to such a realm. It seems that your cultivated divine body should have reached small success." Xuanlong had a saintly being, which was called the cultivated divine body. Generally speaking, only a man of the fish-dragon realm could practice his saintly being into reaching small success. In this way, he could really encourage the strength of a saintly being. Those whose saintly being achieved small success could defeat many enemies of the same realm. For example, if a monk of the first change in the fish-dragon realm were to practice his saintly being into the realm of small success, he would be able to fight with 100 monks of the same realm by himself. He would be able to defeat a group of people single-handedly. Most importantly, none of the monks who could break through to the first change in the fish-dragon realm were weak. Xuanlong was stronger than the other saintly beings of small success because he had practiced his saintly being into small success when he was at the completion of heaven realm, which was deemed incredible. Those who had saintly being of small success might not be invincible when competing with those of the same realm. Huang Sheni's eyes became very sharp and a light white spot appeared between the eyebrows. Swoosh! A meter-long holy sword flew out between his eyebrows and landed in his hand. It looked like a sword but did not have sword edges. Instead, it was like a pen made of black iron. Huang Sheni held the holy sword and spun it quickly, drawing a sword circle with a diameter of 10 meters around his body. As the sword began glowing, some inscriptions appeared on the edges and suspended in the air to form an array. Xuanlong's arms were completely wrapped in blue saint fire. Then he threw a punch. Light from the array emerged and turned into a light cover. Boom! Xuanlong smashed the light cover with one strike. With unstoppable power, he clenched his fists and aimed it at Huang Sheni. As one would imagine, once struck by his fist, Huang Sheni would fall apart. Huang Sheni looked dignified. He took a step back and used a holy sword to draw a sword circle in the ground again. Huang Sheni drew 7 sword circles in succession, forming 7 arrays which could withstand the power of Xuanlong's punch. After Xuanlong threw a punch, Huang Sheni took a step forward and stabbed Xuanlong's lower abdomen quickly. Although he had a saintly being of small success, Xuanlong did not dare to block the holy sword's strike with his body. He immediately retreated and kept his distance from Huang Sheni. Then, he threw another punch and hit the body of the holy sword. With a bang, the holy sword swerved in another direction, away from where it was initially headed. Bang bang! The two continued to fight against each other and could not stop fighting. There were sword radiance and firelight everywhere in the Colosseum. At the top of the stone tablet of heaven board, Saint Lady nodded and said, "One could consider Huang Sheni a genius in martial arts. In using of the array, he has also reached the realm of a master. As for his sword technique, he has accomplished heart integrated into sword. If my eyes do not deceive me, his spiritual power has also reached the 41st level. He is close to being flawless and is very well-rounded. Only a few people of the same realm would be able to fight him." Xuanlong is a young king in the central region and has been called rare genius by Xun family. In fact, Emperor Wen, who was one of the 9 emperors 800 years ago, is as strong as Xuanlong. The vessel spirit of the heaven board nodded, saying, "The Xun family of the central region is one of the 8 aristocratic families in Confucianism in the Middle Age. They have a long history and have built a profound foundation. Xuanlong has been deemed a once-in-a-thousand-year genius of the Xun family because he has his own special talents. However, although he could fight the young Emperor Wen, it may be hard for him to be as good as Emperor Wen. The Yellow Realm, the Black Realm, the Earth Realm, and the Heaven Realm were the 4 mortal realms. If a man had great intelligence, it meant that he had a better foundation. However, it did not guarantee his ability to become a saint. Not to mention the level of Emperor Wen, The most important factor in becoming a saint was one's mind. Alternatively, an untalented yet strong-willed man could gradually move forward by doing solid work. Those with great potential may even surpass the formers. Those who demonstrated exceptional talents at the four mortal realms may not be able to move on because of their weak mentality. They began falling behind at the fish-dragon realm and achieved very little success. Regardless of how talented people at the four mortal realms were, reaching the ultimate realm in each realm just meant that they had higher starting points. Only upon reaching the fish-dragon realm could they judge who were the real dragons or fish. If you were a dragon, you might be able to practice and advance from the first change to 9 change in the fish-dragon realm in just a few years. If you were a fish, it would be difficult to succeed even if you tried hard throughout your life. Of course, other than talent and mind, there were other factors to take into consideration. Only those who were outstanding in various aspects could be candidates for the heir of Kunlun Field. Saint Lady said, Xuanwu was talented and could become one of the candidates for the heir of Kunlun Field. Write his name down and conduct an investigation. After saying that, Saint Lady began writing Xuanwu on the scroll. The vessel spirit of the heaven board laughed and said, "This era reminds me of the period 1,000 years ago when men of talent came out in succession. But finally, only the 9 emperors grew up. Some of the other talents died an unnatural death, while the others exhausted their potential. In the end, they all failed to become the strongest. After all, only a few people could succeed after a fierce fight. The era of the 9 emperors has passed and a new era has come," said Saint Lady. Suddenly, there was a change in the Colosseum. "It's time to put an end to this." Huang Shenyi clasped his palms together, holding the holy sword between his hands. A black vortex appeared behind him and swallowed all spiritual chi and light. A strong power that from ancient times merged with his body. When the power burst, all the warriors in the Colosseum of the martial market felt suffocated and trembled with fear. Xuanwu also felt a tremendous pressure. He raised his head, opened his mouth, and roared loudly. Crackle! Xuanwu's body generated a loud noise. His bones stretched outward, making him 10 meters tall, turning him into a fire skull titan. Words flew out from the fire skull titan's skeleton one by one like a starry sky and were arranged based on a strange rule. The power of small success of cultivated divine body was completely triggered. His bones, like a sealed book, sent out a lot of spiritual chi. Boom! The clash from their strikes meeting blew them both backward. The difference was that Xuanwu fell off the heavenly ring and Huang Shenyi still had half his feet on the edge of the Colosseum. Xuanwu's body contracted and restored its original appearance. He stared closely at Huang Shenyi who was standing on the Colosseum and felt lost, saying, "What's the power of your last move?" Huang Shenyi also withdrew his power and said coldly, "It's the power of Xuanwu, an ancient mythical beast. When I experienced it in the primitive world of Xuanwu, I risked my life for an adventure to gain the inheritance of Xuanwu. So you were doomed to lose. However, you should be grateful because you're the first person to come out of a fight with me alive. Really? You were just lucky enough to win by half a move. The next time we fight, I may not lose." Xuanwu was extremely arrogant and could not admit defeat. He snorted and returned to the spectator stand. The inheritance of the ancient mythical beast Xuanwu. All the warriors present gasped. Xuanwu Xingling who stood on the spectator stand looked dignified and said, "Huang Shenyi was lucky to receive Xuanwu's inheritance. It is said that Xuanwu's power is strong enough to kill gods." Huang Yanshen furrowed her brows and firmly said, "Let me go into this war." Huang Shenyi's power is so frightening that even if Zhang Yuochen were to return, he would still not be able to defeat Huang Shenyi. "If someone must die, let me go." Yanshen, why would Huang Shenyi not kill Zhang Yuochen if he could kill you? If you went into the Colosseum now, you would die. Xuanwu Xingling said. Huang Yanshen, Xuanwu Xingling, and even Auxinian who was confident in Zhang Yuochen's strength worried about him after seeing how powerful Huang Shenyi is. She secretly prayed in her heart, "Zhang Yuochen, I wish you never came back." The fight was hopeless. No one was worthy of being Huang Shenyi's opponent in the same realm. Once Zhang Yuochen came back, he must fight Huang Shenyi. The result was certain. It would be difficult to save his life. Huang Shenyi stood on the Colosseum and stared at Huang Yanshen, saying, "Commander Princess Yanshen, You promised to fight me by today. Were you speaking the truth? If you are afraid to fight, I would let you off because you are a woman. Huang Shenyi, are you laughing at me? Huang Yanshan stood up and said angrily. Huang Shenyi said, no, I would not dare to do such a thing. After all, your father was the half-saint of East Region Saint Mansions. Laughing at you would mean I was also laughing at your father. Huang Yanjin clenched her fingers very angrily. Saint Lady stood on top of the stone tablet of heaven board and slightly frowned. She thought Huang Shenyi was acting despicably. He threatened a woman whose cultivation was far lower than his and lacked a broad vision or a selfless mind. Someone who could become a supreme dominator, regardless of the path they follow, be it evil, righteous, or even demonic, would hardly be of a narrow mind. At that moment outside the Colosseum of the Martial Market, appeared a faint voice. Huang Shenyi, did you not know that if you want to challenge her, you must defeat me first? If you do not win, what qualifications do you have to challenge her? Zhang Yuochen, who wore a martial robe, came inside, looking as though he has traveled a long way. His body was still covered in dust. It was clear that he had just returned to the chaotic Millionverse Mountain and immediately came to Colosseum of the Martial Market. Zhang Yuochen had stayed in the primitive world of Wood Spirit for nearly a month. Throughout the month, he had not fully rested once and either practiced or fought with the treeman. No matter how strong his spiritual power was, he could not withstand it. Upon walking into the Colosseum of the Martial Market, he looked very different and exhausted. However, he still stood up straight. He walked into Heavenly Ring step by step and said, you should have known that she is my fiancée. Whoever wanted to challenge her should first defeat me.